What's happening?
Happy July 2nd.
Man, second half of the year.
Halfway through the year.
Unbelievable. Well, it is believable. So it's not unbelievable. It's just gone pretty damn fast.
Real fast. I tell people it goes even faster when you're awake all the time.
Yeah. How's the sleep going, bro?
Sleep's not bad, to be honest. But he did turn 2 months old today. So, that's a big milestone. He's up 4 pounds today. So that's
Does that even seem possible? Milestone. How fast?
Yeah, I know. But, he's been honestly, we're getting our rhythm dialed in with the sleep schedule a little bit. So, normally we put him down around 10-ish or so. That usually gets us to about 2:30 to 3:30-ish in the morning. On a good day, 4 in the morning.
Oh, that's great. That's all you need.
Yeah. And so I go to bed when he goes to bed. And so I usually get the 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And so I get the morning shift and all that, and all is well in the world. So
yeah. It's such an ebb and flow, right? It's just navigating it all. And some nights are better than others. And, it's just one of those things too, right? That's yeah, I mean, it's stages, right? It'll go and it'll continue, to evolve for the next few years for sure. You get to that point, but enjoy it, brother. That's all I can tell you. It'd go by fast.
The one thing that I always question is, do I just stay up, right? Like for those days when he's up at 4, like normally I wake up at 5:36 and or even 3:30. He's done feeding by 4. Like, what's an hour? Like, do I just stay up? So then I think about the 5 a.m. club, and like all of this other stuff. And it's like, well, I already got my 4 or 5 hours in. Some days I do stay up and some days I go back to sleep. But just think about that, right? If I'm cranking on work at, 4:30 in the morning, I'm already, a couple hours ahead. And that's, some of the stuff that we talk about, with the launch today is, what are some of those sacrifices? And one of those things may be sacrifice of some sleep. Now, obviously, you can't just go off of 4 hours, figure out a time in the afternoon, maybe we can sneak a nap in or something. But yeah, that's the big thing in the mornings. I'm always thinking about, okay, is this a morning where I have to go back to bed, or is this a morning where I stay up and actually, start cranking on some work before, the rest of the world in the house kind of wakes up again. So,
yeah, I think I think it depends, right? I think, if you're deprived of just some you time, maybe so.
Yep.
If you're deprived on a little sleep, get that extra, 60, 90 minutes. But if you're good, you're not deprived on you time. Because I think one of the worst things to do, and maybe not, right? Maybe you need some just brain dump, right? You just need to I just need to shut my brain off. I'm gonna watch Suits for a little while or something, right? Just to be able to do that. But I think if you're like, dude, it's ready to go. Like I can get an extra, I can get ahead of everybody else. I can get, to work fast and I can get it done. Right. That's kind of my thing is, what's my number one thing on my power list? And then did I get my workout in all before noon? Right. If I can do those 2 things before noon, then, the rest of the day is great, right? Like if I can get to it, right, I'm trying to knock out, the other 4 items on the power list. I'm trying to be better with that, man. It's hard. It's hard to knock out 5 things, especially when you've got a lot of other obligations. But, if you can get a workout and you can get, to get that done. Thinking of Blake, baby's 2 months, so we get a little bit older, right? So like, obviously Luke got a little bit older, but what Blake would do, when he got up in the morning, the 3:34, 4:35, feed, do his thing. And then, he was strapped in with Blake and Blake was off on his walk. Maybe he would drive down to the pier, to the boardwalk, and then, watch the sun come up. And that's kind of, Blake's sun up and sundown, sunset and sunrise is kind of his thing. And so he got that moment with Luke a lot of mornings, going to watch the sunrise together. And then obviously, as a family watching the sunset. So it's just finding those things to where, what's really cool is you just figure it out, right? And you figure out how to really how can I use this to my advantage?
Right.
And, I'm awake, I can go. I think, being able to get really good sleep is important. But being able to, utilize that time in another way, right? Like you look at Kobe, and he's like, the two things that I wouldn't sacrifice is my family and my career. So I had to sacrifice sleep.
Yep.
And so, he knew that if you were getting 2 workouts in or 3, he was getting 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he knew over time that he would get years ahead of you, because he was getting that extra training session in every day. And he would outwork and be more consistent. And he knew the longevity of those things and what it would do. So it's just understanding and being able to capitalize on it.
Well, and talking about, obviously it's the, first half of the year is now, behind us. We have the second half of the year. The hard part for me is I like the structure of my schedule, and like I have to be able, and this is kind of tying into what we'll talk about today, but I have to remain open-minded that my schedule may be looking different moving forward. And one of that might be, and like, I don't like napping. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't mind napping, but normally if I'm napping for like 2 to 3 hours, right? Like I'm out. But, it's one of those things though, right? Like, if you're starting real estate and you're brand new, your world looks different now, right? Me, right? Got the little one now. Like my world looks different now. But the one great thing about real estate and what it provides us is complete flexibility. Now, as someone that likes to have structure to their schedule, I like to have things a certain way, done a certain time, like all of those things. I have to constantly remind myself that my calendar should be a Tetris board, right? I can move things around. There's nothing that says that I can't, or you guys can't take your workout break from 12 to 2 every single day. Right. Or, maybe you're not prospecting at 9 a.m. because prospecting at 7 p.m. is better for you. To your real estate business, it's all about the consistency and just showing up and doing it every single day. And so for me, right, I know that morning time slot, maybe this will just become my new routine, right? If he's waking up at 3:30, 4, whatever it is, once he goes back to bed, that hour to 2 hour window where no one's bothering me is my time to really crank out some of the behind the scenes type stuff. And that may mean that, hey, I know my afternoon, I might have to sneak in, an hour and a half nap to catch up on some of that sleep that I lost during that busy. But I tell you, sometimes that nap creates some anxiety around, my life, because it's like I wake up and my phone went off with notifications like a bomb, and then you're playing catch up there. But it's a great time. In the launch, we talk about going back and auditing your business, right? And I know you wanted to talk about, first half versus second half. Maybe what do we need to be focusing on going into the second half of the year? One of the exercises that I have every agent do with the launch is going back 12 months, going back 24 months. Maybe right now it's a good time to go back the last 6 months. There's a lot of agents whose business has suffered this year, and there's a lot of agents whose business is thriving this year. Where do you fall, on the scale of your goals? Are you on pace? Are you ahead? Are you behind? I shared this today on Clubhouse. One of the misses for me so far this first half of the year is new construction. I've been talking about doing new construction, focusing on new construction, wanting to, really put out content towards new construction. I just completely failed, no excuse around it other than my only excuse is like I didn't set the time aside to create the content, to put it out on YouTube, to put it out on the social media, all of those things. But I know really, damn well in my market that new construction is going to solve a lot of buyers' problems, moving forward over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And if I'm not positioning myself within that sector of the market, I'm going to be missing a lot of opportunities. And so, John, for me, like that is one of the things, second half of the year from a real estate agent standpoint, a personal agent standpoint, really focusing on the new construction side, because I know in my marketplace, it's a big miss right now for me.
Yeah. And I think so that this just kind of lead us into kind of the process to be thinking about, at halftime. And, our theme at Kitchen Table, was really around, the 28-3 And for you football fans, Tom Brady fans, you know what 28-3 means. And it was the largest comeback deficit in Super Bowl history. And halftime was 21-3. And truth be told, 28-3 was about 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter, and being able to tie it up and then take it into overtime is really really an understanding that if you have a game plan and you have a desire and you're willing to stay disciplined, which is the promise you're about to make, that you're going to keep that promise. That's discipline, doing the things, every day, even when you don't want to, that you have to do in order to execute on the plan. But then you got to just trust the process. And then when you trust the process, then you just got to work hard. And so if you have those things and just continue to trust it, you may have to get into overtime, but you can go through and hit that objective of what it is you're trying to accomplish. So I think being at halftime is really kind of evaluating, right? What went well, what didn't go well, what is working that we need to keep focusing on, what is like slowing us down, what's that boat anchor that we must say no to, and maybe it's growth through subtraction into the second half of the year. And I think kind of you look at life additions continues to kind of force the time availability. And I think what we have to remember is that time expands to the work allowed. And so if you have these objectives and get real clear on what is required from a traffic and demand, where does my marketing strategy, where are my opportunities going to come from? Where can I focus to increase conversion with automations, with AI, with other people's time, energy, and effort? Where do I step into the process? And then, taking the fulfillment side off of your plate as much as possible. And then also taking the retention side off as much as possible with other people's time, energy, and effort, with automations, with AI, and get real clear on only the handful of things that I must do in order for my business to go forward. And the math equation, John, is 70% of my working time is allocated to it. So you're like, man, I got a life constraint, man. I'm only able to give a true 40 hours, right? Most of us, it never shuts off. So it's 50, 60 of the 168 hours in a week that we say we're working, but actually how much of it are we being productive? We're not getting 70% of the working time on the things that really move our business forward. And you're like, man, I've just gotta cut it back. There's no way that I can honestly put it in my calendar that I can work more than 40. And so if we go the 70% rule of the 40 is 28. So I need 28 of my hours in my calendar, and it needs to be in the calendar.
Yep.
That is time blocked, detailed to the marketing, the conversion, whatever conversion point I'm responsible for, activities that are going to move me forward. And I promise you, it's just like if you're going on a trip and you only have so many hours to get, a week's worth of work done. Yeah. Figure out a way, and you either do it or you delegate it, or you realize what is required and what is not. And so I think when you can create those constraints in your calendar and in your mind, it helps you get real clear on, like, man, this is a lot of nice to have things. This improves the experience, but this is not going to get the results that I need. Right. I got to focus on those things first. And it's right things, right order. Obviously the high lifetime activities now, as the family's growing, family obligations, you also got to still, keep the oxygen mask off, making sure you're doing the things to keep you strong. And those things going first. Then second goes in those handful of things, those 28 hours, those 70% that's going to move my business forward. And then the rest of the work related activities. And if you do everything right, that's it. There's no time for anything else.
Right.
And I think just creating clear understanding of what's important. So to the point, right, we've evaluated what's working, what's not working. What do we need to start doing, stop doing, keep doing based upon our current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And knowing the theory of constraints is, where is the constraint in my business? Is it around traffic? Is it around converting the traffic? Is it around fulfilling on my promise? There's a fourth bucket that we don't talk about, but that's retention. And so, like, if you have a large organization and you got people, as fast as they're coming in the door, they're going out the back door. I don't have a traffic problem. Maybe I have a fulfillment, because I think, because this is really good. And I would love your take on it from, leading a massive team. Talking with Brandon Town and Andrew this morning, and we were talking about, the retention piece, but truth be told, delivering on your promise and fulfillment and getting people their results for agents, getting them to the closing table, you fix retention.
Yeah.
So evaluating all of those things and then just honing in on what is absolutely required is absolutely key. So for you and for all of the agents on your team, as we're kind of at a halftime evaluating the plan, and even if we are behind, what are we putting in place? And so what are you thinking about? What checklist are you having them go through, revisit, kind of the relaunch the second half, possibly could be relaunch the second half, relaunch the third quarter, or launch. No, it wouldn't be relaunch, right? We're going to launch the second half. We're going to launch the third quarter, and we're going to launch the month of July. Like, what are you having them think through and evaluate?
Well, first we got to go back to what was the goal for the year, right? Are we ahead of pace, on pace, behind pace, and is that still the goal? Like, I had this conversation with one of our agents probably about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And, the goal was 50 transactions. Well, he's 1 year into the business. I think he did 18 transactions in his first 12 months, which is great. And, it's funny because when he first told me 50, I kind of chuckled a little bit, and he brought that up, right? We have a great relationship because I knew what that would look like, knowing, his career and where he was coming from and all of those things. And now he got to see the lifestyle that we get to live as real estate agents. And so he's already told me 50 is not the goal anymore, right? Because it's not about the 50 transactions. It's not about that number. It's about now he has complete freedom, flexibility of his life to do whatever the hell he wants, right? As long as he's doing real estate and bills are being paid and he's growing his accounts and all those kind of things, right? And so for me, we had a team call today. I was like, hey, jump into my calendar, right? Let's dissect the first half. Okay. Back in October, we set a goal of X for 2024. Is that still the goal? We have to answer that question first. Yeah. Because if we don't have the end point of our roadmap, right, we have no direction. We don't know where we're going, right? And so then from there, great. If that is still the goal, how did we do so far this year?
Yeah.
Right. Did we stay on track with our business pillars? And what I like to do is I like to work in the black and white on a lot of this stuff and not the gray. And so part of the 12, go back 12 months. In this case, we go back 6 months and do the audit of where did those deals come from that we've done so far, and go back to the root source. I don't like doing I built my business on internet leads, right? So a lot of my internet leads now, I could say, oh, they're past clients or they're past client referral. But the reality is I have to include Boomtown past client referral, because up here, I need to remind myself that it was the internet leads that I did that helped generate the now business, right? And that repeat business. And so some people may say, well, yeah, it's my sphere of influence. Yeah, but what helped you get there? And I think at some point, obviously you can morph, right? But the reality is if you did 4 closings from open houses,
Yeah.
Like we need to make sure we're honoring that activity, that, we need to honor that activity because that's what created the results that we were looking for. And so then we just run it through the filters, right? Hey, on this business pillar, is this an area that you wanted to focus on? Yes or no? If it's yes, great. Do we like where we're at with this business pillar so far this year? Yes or no? If yes, awesome. Let's not change anything. If no, great. Do we want to scale it up or do we want to just get rid of it? Some agents may say, hey, I want to focus on, door knocking. Well, if you only got one result from it out of, maybe the 10 that you've done so far this year, is it really worth your time invested?
Yeah.
ROTI, a Rory Vaden, thing. And so we just run them through those filters. Okay, next business pillar. Hey, you said you wanted to, work with, do mailers this year with all of your listings and really farm a neighborhood. Did we do that or did we not? How many deals did we get from it? Do we like that result? Yes or no? Do we want to scale this up? Do we want to keep it the same or do we just want to get rid of it? And then we go through each one of those business pillars, and that's how we have that conversation. And so then we take the totality of that and say, okay, well, if we said we want to maintain each one of these things, are we then going to be able to hit our goal? That answer may be yes. That answer may be no. And so we constantly have this conversation, and I have this conversation with a lot of my the agents that I coach because it's, hey, what's pipeline looking like? Are we on pace for our goal? I just had a call today. Q3 for one of the agents I'm coaching, 18 transactions is what he needs to stay on pace for his goal, right? He already knows starting this quarter that he's got, I think he has like 9 or 10 in the pipeline that he thinks are for sure going to happen, right? So now we know, okay, well, great. Well, where do we need to make up these other, 8, 9, 10 opportunities? Because not all of these are going to close, right? Some will fall out, some will get moved to Q4, all of those things. And so it's a constant conversation that you need to be having with yourself around your business pillars. This is a great time to look at what you've done so far, get clarity, because it may surprise you, right? It may be that you've done great in the first half on open houses. Great. Well, how do we, duplicate that into the second half and or increase it? If that's an area that you want to now start focusing on, because now you looked back and audited and said, hey, like this was a great source of my business in the first half of the year, half of the year. So we always start there, right? With the audit, right? We have to, and obviously first the goal, then the audit. Now we can build out the GPS, right? The roadmap to the second half of the year. And that can change, right? Like for our team, we're going through a little bit of a change. We're really trying to, I wouldn't say even out our business, but we're really trying to bring in some seller opportunities.
Yeah.
It's something that we've never really focused on. We feel that, with the size, the number of agents, the goals that we have.
No reason you guys shouldn't have 150 yard signs in the market right now.
Yeah. And so, with our, with the current ones we have currently in contract and active and all those things, right? How do we truly maximize these and turn them into other listing opportunities, where as a team, we just never really focused on that side of the business. And so we know second half of this year is going to be trial and error.
Yeah.
But by 2025, we should have a pretty good idea of how to get it done. And I think that's the other part of this, right? Like, you guys have to understand that what we do in real estate, we have to give everything enough time, right? Yeah. It is, a 3 to 6 month period of testing and trying to figure out what is the best thing for you to focus on. What is the best conversion tool? What is the best lead attractor? What is the best, thing that you need to do from a fulfillment standpoint? So we're looking seller side, and we're looking to really get better at the experience that we give the consumer. Because we believe if we can create this over the top experience, we're going to get more referrals. We're going to get less people questioning our fee structure.
Yeah.
And that's how we are planning the second half of this year. So we're revamping listing presentation, listing process. We're revamping, obviously, our buy side presentation, our buy side process. We're looking at all angles of what can we put out on the table for our clients value wise. And so we have even though we're on pace to do what we did in 2021, it just looks and feels different, right? And we're making some changes.
Yeah. I think it's such a great point what you're talking about. Obviously, the only thing people buy are results. So, I think as a team, if you're leading a team, your agents are your clients and they're looking for results. So how are you helping them get results? But if you're in production and you're helping people get results, you've got, I would say in this market, you got motivated sellers. I would say the have to buyers that have the ability to buy in today's market. I would say investors, I would say builders. And then the other is that you've got your vendors. And so what results are they looking for that they can't get on their own? And then how do you, and you can show proof, how do you help them get that result? And so as long as you can get the result in the minimum required action to get them results, everything else just improves the experience. So if you're like, hey, we're getting people results, we need to improve the experience so we can focus on lifetime value. What we have to understand is that there's the cash conversion cycle on everything. So to your point, when we're looking at, okay, what's working, and the other big consideration that we got to take in is, okay, well, what's our current financial situation? And you're like, I need to get paychecks now. Okay. So we have to take that into consideration of what we're going to choose to focus on. And part of our marketing strategy has to be geared and built around based upon the financial situation. And be like, okay, hey, I'm going to focus and commit on these three things. Okay. Out of those three things, what's the cash conversion cycle? Meaning, like, am I doing something that's going to hit the P&L immediately? Like, am I doing something that's going to, get us into, the second month or the third month? But for most of our efforts, and this is how you got to think about, planning, strategically for the quarter, is that what we do over the next 90 days really won't really show up or impact the bank account until the next quarter.
Yep.
And then, that's why when we go into Q4, we're doing everything in Q4 for Q1. So here we are, Q3, second half of the year. Patriots 21-3. They find themselves down 28-3. But what they were doing and building coming out of halftime and what they were doing in the third quarter impacted what they were able to do in the fourth.
Yep. And
so it's just a great reminder that, okay, I need the cash register to ring immediately. Okay, well, what are if I'm going, three focuses, three pillars deep, what are the immediate ones that are going to get me people that are closest to making the cash register ring? Motivated sellers, people that tried to sell, that failed to sell, buyers in the streets, right? Open houses, they're coming out there. They're like, hey, dude, like, we got to do something now, right? Talking to people that got to do something now, and having a system to sift and sort and prioritize who that is and what type of engagement, flame score, who's the closest, having some type of gauge. And ours was, timing and motivation. Do they have to, and what's their time frame? And that's who we want to focus on first. And then the psychological piece to that is that if I can get them across the finish line, how much money of that transaction will come into my bank account? And that helps you prioritize. And it's one of my favorite exercises, as we wrap up every KT, is money on the table. And essentially, like, who's got my money? Like, who's going to do something in the next 90 days that I just need to, and what action do I need to take to go get my money? And of that, how much of that money is, how much money's there if I go take it, if I go get it. So there's just some things that go in to get real clear. And I think, to your point, what's working, like, prove to me what's working, like, what's showing me what's working. Let's not abandon that. Right. We don't want to abandon the golden goose of the lead stream. If it's working and it's profitable and it's getting people, we're not trading dollar for dollar. Like, there's a return on that.
Yeah.
To my point, right, where you're paying, so, it takes you, What's the cost to acquire that? And if I go that path, yeah, I'm busy, I'm going to get a paycheck, but I essentially spent all of that money to get that paycheck. So it's like a wash. Like what am I doing? So I think, taking into consideration of those, what we're saying yes to, what's the cash conversion cycle. But hey, man, I'm good. We got good cash flow, or like I got a good capital reserve. Okay, well, what's working? Let's keep doing that. And then do we want to implement something for the future? Do we want to focus on an asset for the future, right? Like, YouTube channel. We could all, there's so much proof out there. YouTube channels, if done right and done consistent, can be profitable, but they just take time, right? The second 12 months is going to be, a lot more than the first 12 months.
Yeah.
So we just gotta know, we just got to know what that is, and just be smart about it, right? Not be reactive, but be intentional.
Yeah. I think about this question a lot. It's the Gary Keller, the one thing, like ask yourself, like, hey, what's the one thing I need to get done this quarter? What's the one thing that I need to do the second half of this year? And then ultimately, right, what's the one thing I really need to do for my career?
Yeah.
And so you can ask that question in different layers of your business. And I was just talking to one of my coaching clients, and he brought up around investing in real estate, and he's in this period where he's growing his real estate business, right? And it's like the question is, do I keep pouring money into growing the business, 3-4 years in, or do I start looking to diversify and look at some residential investment? And I'm like, look, it's the same. Like, you got to ask yourself, is this a distraction? Is this money that you're putting into investment taking away from the opportunity to really grow your real estate business over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, especially as you add people on to your team and all of those things? Obviously from an investment standpoint, if it makes sense financially and it's not going to hurt the growth of your business, then that answer is yes. But at the same time, you got to ask yourself, is this a distraction? Right. And a lot of times as agents, we think things are opportunities, but they're really disguised as a distraction. Right. And because a lot of times we don't think about the time allocation that it's going to take to do that thing. We don't think about the energy that it's going to take in order to do that thing. We don't consider the time loss of focusing on that versus focusing on this that was working.
Right.
And we all get sucked into those things that are distractions that look like an opportunity.
100%, man. I think, and to me, this is what I've been thinking about, and just kind of pushing on my team, is that you've got to become a strategic thinker. And let me tell you what I mean by, strategic is solving the right problem. A thinker is having a mental model to identify what the problem is, and then strategy, what are all the ways, and then committing to solving that problem. That, to me, that's going to give you that definition of strategic thinking. Yeah. And when I say it in that context, because, as business and in life, right, the number one thing that we can all adopt is the theory of constraints. And the theory of constraints just identifies that there is a constraint somewhere in the conveyor belt of our life. And you look at our business, it's raw material, finished product. Real estate, it's a lead and it's a closed transaction. And along that way, you got to do things to generate that lead. And then you got to do to convert that lead. And then you've got to fulfill on the promise you're making that lead, that you promise them that you can get the result that they want. And I promise you, somewhere along that path is a constraint, right? There's a kink in your water hose. And so your job is to have visibility. This is why we have dashboards. This is why we have, scorecards. This is why we have these tools. And if you're a real estate agent, I don't have a link. I don't have any upside on it. I wish I did, but y'all use it, CTE. If you don't have any type of tool to manage your business, and especially if you're a solo agent, ideally, if you're a solo agent and you're on your team, your team should have some type of dashboard. They should be using something. So you should be able to get the numbers and the data. But if you don't, you're a solo agent out there or starting a team and you need something, go get ctebiz.com. Go get it. It's a spreadsheet on steroids. It is a super like you spend more money at Starbucks than you do a month to have this dashboard for your business.
Yeah.
So ctebiz.com, it should be a non-negotiable. Go get it. Unless you have your own system and tool, very few do. But if you have something, great. But for most, they don't. And they haven't had to, John. They haven't had to because it's been so reactive and they've just been running their business off of their bank account. That will get you in trouble. So you've really got to be able to be intentional in being able to have something that you can put your goals and your targets, break out the KPIs. What do I got to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis in order for my outcomes to be true? And so get that dang visibility. I mean, it's absolutely crystal. It's the number one thing. I would tell you right now, if you don't have visibility as an agent, a team, whatever, go get it. And I know kind of on my soapbox about it, but that's how important it is. And being able to get that. And then we know what we can do. We know what we need to say yes to. We know what we need to say no to. We know where we're off. We know what we can commit to from the comeback if we need to come back, or if we're ahead, then great. We'll increase the goal. But what it does is it gives us that visibility to where we don't guess. We know what the real problem is. And then we can be strategic because we're going to solve that problem. So we think about it because we have a framework, mental models to think, but strategy is just solving the right problem. Yeah. So we got to be able to think to a know and how to identify the problem. What are all the ways to solve the problem? And then strategy is a commitment to go solve that problem. Strategic thinking. That's just what we have to adopt to be able to navigate and move forward.
With the CTE thing, it's, I mentioned it just a little bit ago. ROTI, return on time invested. And the idea is how do you multiply time, right? You do one thing once and then you don't have to think about it again. Well, with CTE, we've been using it, 4 years now. I think we're going on our 5th year. And, you put in the transaction details one time and it will spit out all of the reports that you need. I can go and look at that spreadsheet and I can see how many deals we've done with our lending partner. I can see how many deals were cash. I can see how many deals were done with our home inspector and our title company. I can see where the lead source came from. It calculates my average list price, sold price, commission, all of that kind of stuff. It calculates, each lead source and each lead source's average sales price. And so, when you want to talk about, opening up the hood of your business, it tracks, if you wanted it to, you can track your dials, your texts, your reach outs, all of that stuff. But the point of it is if you just take the time to plug in your one transaction details, it's going to generate all of these reports. And so for a business owner, it's important for you to see what the 15-day, 30-day, 90-day, 120-day, outlook looks like for your in contracts and close, and what your commissions are coming in within those time periods. So now you guys can make decisions on what's the right move within the business. Do we have money to put on that client appreciation party this quarter? Do we have the funds to start doing direct mail over the next 120 days? And so if you're not tracking some of those things for, I think it's $39 a month.
That's for the team version. For the single agent version, I think it's 15 to 20 max.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we pay $39 a month, and it's just a one-stop shop for, looking in your business. So we know, okay, everyone wants to bash Zillow Flex, but if Zillow Flex is performing at a higher sales price than what we're doing on traditional internet leads, then that referral fee, doesn't really matter in some cases, right? Mm-hmm. And to what you said, for us and our team, right, that's giving our agents quicker, a faster experience with getting in front of buyers and sellers.
Yeah, Dude, so it's so good. And I keep coming back to, right, you as a coach, if truth of where they're at, you have the metrics, you have the math, you have the numbers. and you really know their vision and their real goals and they're committed to those goals,
Yep.
then you know that you can put in an amazing plan to help collapse time and get them closer to the goal. But if you're just taking it off words, because men lie, women lie, numbers don't, it's real hard. And so I think, if I was to say, first and foremost, if I'm not willing to commit and look at the numbers on a consistent basis, then I don't know how serious I am about building a business. And it might just be a lifestyle thing for me, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But if I really want to do this thing and I'm serious about it, and I want to build a career with it, and I want to build a business, then one of the action items is that you got to have visibility.
Yeah, I think some people are scared.
Of course they are.
They're scared to really look at it.
Of course they are.
Because they don't want to admit to it.
Yeah, but the problem is once you look at it, then it's a sigh of relief, and then it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
Man, that's worse than I thought, or that's not as bad as I thought. And then it's like, because what happens is now when you look at it, our brains form a constraint, and we're wired as humans to solve problems. So when we know the constraint, and this is why we say, think bigger, because it takes the same energy to try to solve a small problem as it does a massive problem. So why not create a big ass constraint and let me use the same energy to try to figure out how to solve it? But I got to know what's going on. I got to be able to see it. And like I said, it does cause a lot of like stress and anxiety. But once we put that visibility in place, then we can go, like I said, it's either worse than I thought or it's not as bad as I thought. Either way, we're going to come up with a plan to improve upon it. But we can't improve upon what we don't know what we're trying to improve upon.
Yep. Yep.
Good stuff. Brother, I appreciate you. And, it's just, it's an interesting time, right? We're midway point of the year. We're summer market, summer vacations. It's hot, seasonal markets, taking advantage of the few months that are just absolutely extraordinary. And I think the big thing is that no matter what, right? Like, just be consistent, be disciplined, do the things that you promised yourself you were going to do. That's discipline on a consistent basis. And, head down, eyes up, and just keep doing the things that you're committed to, that you must do, necessary, required actions. And, we'll look up down the road, and you'll be a lot further than what you think you are.
Yeah, 100%. It's we still have a lot of time left in this year.
So much time.
Don't think that it's already over.
No, not at all. Brother, I appreciate you. And thank you guys all tuning in. If you guys have any questions, need any help, obviously you can reach out to us direct, or if you want to schedule a call, jump on 7figurecall.com, book a call, and we'll help you get clear. And like John said, get that GPS, get that laid out to know where it is you're trying to go, and give you guys definitely some traction to be able to get off and running.
Yeah, for sure. Book a call.
All right, brother. See you guys.
Alrighty, see ya.
Bye.